Catching up with Sarah and Ginny, fueled by laughter and insights aplenty. Curiosity, connection, and learning that sticks. Real talk, real lives with practical tips. Welcome to Catching Up with Sarah and Ginny. Come on in.
Good afternoon, Dan, and it is lovely to see you here at the Schools and Academies show. If we can begin by, can you tell us what you do, what your role is, please?
Yeah, of course. My name's Dan Morrow. I am the trust leader for Cornwall Education Learning Trust. As a role, some people go by CEO, others go by trust leader. I don't think it's entirely still understood in the system. I see my responsibility as making sure that the head teachers, leaders, and in fact all staff across the organisation have the training, the support, the resources, the permission to lead with agency and to be the change makers on the ground.
And it's so interesting, isn't it, that word permission? I love the word permission. In my role, I often have people asking my permission, and I say you shouldn't need to ask my permission, but sometimes people feel that they need to. And I think it's so important, isn't it, to kind of say to people, actually go with what you think. You don't always need to ask permission. So I love the fact that you've used the word permission, because we're often permission givers when we don't really want to be.
It's 100% that. In an ideal world, we get to the culture whereby that kind of innovation and agility and agency is just the way we do things. But we have to recognise we have structural issues around patriarchy and moves in our entire system that make it harder, especially for basically those who are not heterosexual white men, to really use that permission in space. And so I think we've got to be very intentional and go beyond just doing a DEI action plan or any kind of work that we might be doing strategically into a day-to-day basis for show me failure is an acceptable part of success.
Absolutely.
And really create a circumstance in which people can be their whole selves. And that's really what we should be looking for, because in education, we're looking to do that for the young people we serve. So we absolutely should for the adults who serve them best.
Yeah. It's about modelling, isn't it? It's about modelling. And once again, the use of the word failure, we learn by what we do. And I think we'd all agree we have to have systems. Systems are important, but within those systems that, allowing people that permission. So, yeah, I think that is so important.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well in terms of even talking about your role or like CEO, trust leader, and all of that. A lot of the work that I do is around the labels we give our learners
100%.
and the barriers that creates through those definitions, through those misunderstandings. So it's great that you're trying to break that down. So wonderful. Our first kind of question is around a wow moment. Do you have a wow moment? It could be from today. It could be from within your career. Anything that particularly stands out in terms of a wow moment for you? Could be something very little.
I think my wow moment was, so I trained as a secondary teacher and became a secondary head teacher. And at a point in the organisation I was part of, a primary school had gone into special measures.
Right.
I was asked if I would take the leadership on because it was a primary school I'd gone to. And my mum still lives opposite.
Wow! Wow!
I walked in with the idea that leadership is leadership, but actually my wow moment was realising just how much we have to learn from in the secondary phase from primary practice. And actually, the biggest wow moment was, as someone who had been a little bit of a sixth form specialist, I retrained as an early years teacher. And I think when I was sitting in the chair as a head teacher in secondary, my understanding of primary and child development was really very limited. Yeah. My wow moment was realising just how important the foundation stage and the approach to development is, and how actually, yes, we look at pedagogy and curriculum, but we do so at our cost if we're not underpinning that by the principles of child development that go throughout how we serve our young people. And the wow for me was having a light bulb turning on.
Yeah. And that's really incredible, because it is that foundational understanding and some of that stuff which is missing. And it's then how can we pull that out so people understand some of the things that we're tackling, particularly around SEND, particularly around those differences in education. Wonderful. I love that. Thank you.
I think there's so much to be learned, isn't there, from that? Because actually you went from secondary, then you went to primary, and then you've made a conscious decision to find out more about the pedagogy of early years. And actually, wouldn't it be great if we could have that as the norm, that we all understand, and the permission, to understand the whole cycle that children go through. I mean, I went from year 5, 6, not as dramatically as you, and I went into nursery. And then after I've been in nursery, then whatever I did when I taught up to year 6 after that, there was an embedding of that pedagogy, because
100%.
because it is so important, and it's about it being woven through all, all of the education that we give children. So a brilliant one
Actually,
moment.
a couple of weeks ago, I was doing some cover in the trust, and in the morning, I'd taken a nursery class, and actually in the afternoon, I taught a year 13 class. And I would say, actually, the pedagogy of early years goes all the way through to sixth form, because it makes you remember and realize your role around facilitation and being extremely intently in tune to the individuals who are presenting themselves, as opposed to perhaps sometimes the lesson plan you want to deliver. And it's where you get the sweet spot for me, is that interconnectivity between what the individual need for knowledge and growth is versus the individual circumstances of that human being in front of you and how you best connect.
Absolutely. And I always like the analogy of when you have a child who is in preschool reception and they have a stick, but it isn't a stick, is it? It's a wand, it's a baton, and then my worry is, inadvertently, a child can get to year 6 and they are told that's a stick.
Yeah. Knowledge should not be the enemy of imagination. Knowledge could be absolutely something that gives another facet and another ability to see imagination into different realms. And I think sometimes we're quite oppositional around that concept of creativity and skills versus. But I think within education, and I would like to think this is starting to change, those unhelpful binaries and camps and positions, which mean that people are for something, which means they're against something else, I think is counterintuitive to who we are as professionals. And perhaps we all just need to have a bit more respect for others and a bit more curiosity about what we can learn from them.
I'm just sorry, Jenny, just thinking around that. It's actually that inclusion of everything, of everyone's views, and it isn't, because that's a lot of the stuff that I talk about. I started off within a mainstream primary, ended up being head of a special school, and actually the best thing, and that went right up to post 16, the most important part of that was having that key understanding of that early years education, and also everyone having the permission or having that understanding that actually we're all coming with different views, but neither is right or wrong.
No. And I think one of the problems with how education has been for so long now is it's been based fundamentally on neoliberal principles.
Yeah.
And so we've ended up creeping into being quite competitive, creeping into being quite judgmental. Actually, a friend of mine a number of years ago, when we met up, said, your colleagues do realize that edu-Twitter is still Twitter. People can see how you're treating each other and what people are saying. And it's not a good look.
No.
And
no, not at all.
And that was about 8 years ago, and it's an even worse look now, frankly.
Yeah.
But I think what it reminded me was how, when you set up anything as contested as education, you can take an open and philosophical view, or you can take quite a close, I'm right, you're wrong view.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps we veered, no matter what camp we're in, frankly, into this area. And that does a disservice, actually, to who we are as public servants, because we're here to serve a broad public good.
Yeah.
And we generationally get to be stewards of it, but we don't own it.
Yeah. And to support the education of these really important youngsters who are coming through. And if you're looking at those year 5, 6s, or if you're looking at the secondary school children, actually, what is it about early years that makes it effective? People always say, where do we start when I go in and where do we start to make a change here in terms of reading, in terms of literacy? Put the joy back in.
Yes.
Let's put the joy back into education.
Well, and actually, we've got about 1,800 employees in my trust. I don't think that's just about the young people. I think that it is.
Oh, gosh.
Absolutely.
Yes, let's all find the joy.
Well,
yeah.
And I think there's a couple of things on that. Firstly, I think if there's structural changes.
Yes.
And I think the pressure to make every single minute count is really important. Secondly, there is a post-COVID legacy. Yeah. And the post-COVID legacy is those cohorts are more challenging because they received less early identification.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think thirdly, actually, collectively, since the pandemic, life has just been harder.
Yeah.
And there was an expectation, like an elastic band, things would go back to normal or back to how they were. They haven't. And yet at the same time, we haven't defined what our new normal is. And so we find ourselves anxiously in flux, perhaps waiting for a better day, and sometimes actually denying our own education,
Yeah.
agency as educators
Yeah.
to be part of that change.
Yeah.
And to not to wait for it to happen.
And I think one of the big things there is that everything's moving so quickly. So not only has it not gone back to a kind of like something, anything that we can find predictable and consistent, it's also changing quickly.
It really is. And Sarah, I was really lucky. I was at the first Schools and Academy show in 2010,
Right.
where weirdly I was doing a panel on the crisis of staff recruitment and retention, in real terms.
Yes.
But what's different today is about a fifth of the talks are AI.
Yeah.
So much of the work around EdTech. We are in a very, very volatile and fast-pacing climate.
Absolutely.
And there is both an opportunity and threat for us in all of that world around how open are we actually being, but also when it doesn't feel like your fundamentals are settled, it's hard to embrace so much change.
Yeah. And also with the whole AI stuff, I think as well, it's that change of, or that position, you're either with it or against it. Stop. We've got to be with it, or we've got to be embracing it.
We've got to, absolutely.
And creating with it.
But there are also absolutely big question marks about the environmental impact.
Absolutely.
About whether or not it is, just another version of kind of, technological control. Because we've all seen where social media has gone and the unintended consequences. It's good to ask some overarching questions, but I wonder if we're having a grown-up enough conversation, whether it's about the education system, whether it's about provision for our learners, and most especially for those with additional needs, and indeed about whether that we're ready for the landscape of what's to come, and yet we don't really know.
What's to come, right? Well, we've got a good question for you next.
So our next question has to be, if Send were a song, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a very good question.
I like that.
I can't remember the name of the title, but it is. I think Send is the one which goes, now go, walk out the door, just turn around now.
Survive.
I will
Gloria
survive.
Gaynor.
I will survive. Yes, Gloria Gaynor. Yeah.
One of my favourite karaoke songs.
It's a banger, let's not lie. But it's one of those songs which I think speaks to. Well, the song is a metaphor effectively for self-empowerment, and I'm not prepared to be treated like this. I do have self-esteem, I do have confidence, and because I may have received less than I'm due, it doesn't mean I don't expect more and I'm not going to demand it.
And I think that's from children. I think it's from schools. I think it's from parents.
I think most especially parents.
Yes.
I think in our entire society, one of the most challenging roles to have is to be in that space. And that's because often it isn't just the role of a parent, it's the role of an advocate, it's often the role of a carer, it's often the role, frankly, of legal counsel. It's navigating systems that are more complex than most professionals can get their head around. And at the end of all of it, the supposed golden ticket of an EHCP is inevitably a piece of paper. It is not a passport. And I think ultimately that for whatever reason, and I think funding and resource challenges drive this, but there has become a culture whereby I think SEND parents in particular feel they're not on the same page as educators always. They're not on the same page as local authority support. I think they feel, not in totality, but certain large sections, othered.
Yeah.
And actually, perhaps the SEND system, but most especially for SEND parents, I will survive is probably a good choice.
Yeah. Yes. And I think within that as well, it is all the emotion that you bring to it as a parent or carer. I think it is that whole emotion. So you're trying to do all the legalities of things and all of that, but in the background, you've got that kind of real emotion around it. So I love that. We've got a Spotify list with all of our SEND songs on.
I love it.
So we're going to be adding that one and we'll be giving you the link.
Any other good ones from today?
Oh gosh. We've got Nathan. So we've got Anna Marie's actually, we're going to have it sung live, I think. And it's an original. So I think it's Ali, one of the team, is actually a songwriter.
Oh, well,
and they've actually, I can't think of the title. It's terrible. River. Running with the River.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, and Bohemian Rhapsody as well.
Oh, that's
of course,
a good one.
Stephen, that was a good one as well. But yes, we have had it discussed that somebody was going to have the funeral march, which was also an interesting. We like to try and go for the ones that are a bit more upbeat and uplifting.
I will say though, and this might come back to bite me, but I do actually think the noises I'm hearing about the white paper and actually some of the work that the government are doing in this space are progressive. And I think I'm starting
which you
to
hope. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. But you know, I've been a head teacher and CEO for almost 20 years now. I've had many a hope dashed.
Yeah.
This is different. I do think that there is a real sense of drive, moral responsibility. I think the problem is going to be no matter what comes, you can't please all of the people all of the time. And there are so many people who just know that something really big needs to happen, but probably no one agrees what that big move is.
No. And also, I think there's going to be a lot more ways to express that view. I think now out there, so it can get very things can be vocalized that actually
good point.
Change the view of something
and move
when
the
actually which is really tricky. So I think that's really tricky. And on that kind of like note, our final question is around a book that you might recommend. So it could be a children's book, it could be a book that you're reading, it could just be a book that has meant something to you.
So the latest book I've read in the last 2 weeks actually is by a head teacher and leader in our system. So James Hanscom has written Cabinet of Curiosity, or the Curiosity Cabinet. I can't remember which way round it is. Right. And it's about what you touched on earlier, actually. It's about how do we ensure that through a knowledge-rich curriculum and keeping some of our gaze, we remember how to be fascinated, how to ignite curiosity, how to allow that 15-minute wander from your lesson plan, knowing that actually as a professional and with a very bespoke and unique group of young people in front of you, that conversation about whatever has sparked something is a really powerful one.
And it's valid. It's come from them.
It's very valid. So he's a really interesting thinker and his writing is beautiful, actually. It's one of those ones where it's just very compelling and well written. But there's central thesis and arguments around the need to be curious, but to center curiosity within the current paradigm rather than seeing it as separate from it.
It's got to be within, because everything has to be within. It has to be, yes, you need the knowledge, but you need to be curious about that knowledge. And Hal Roberts talks a lot about botheredness and about leaning it, you know, that all of that. We need our children to be curious. What's the learning that has most stuck with me? It was, you know, stuff around a period of history that I just found fascinating. And that led me to so many different things. So I think that's...
Once you open the door.
Absolutely.
But then the point he makes, and I think this is a good one, is it's not about opening the door just. It's also about giving them the key. So they open any door they wish.
They wish themselves. And then they can see a door that they might want to open and they have a way to do it. Love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My goodness, we've had so much and another few books and songs to find out a bit more about. So wonderful. Thank you.
I love this idea of it's not just allowing them to open the door, but giving them the key. I just think that is wonderful. And once Sarah and I talk all about curiosity so much and about how actually we get to know individuals by having that conscious curiosity, isn't it?
Right.
It has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. And as we say, Sarah, always a pleasure.
Never a chore.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this time on Catching Up with Sarah and Ginny.
Always a pleasure and never a chore.